What up, artists? My name is Dwayne Jones. I'm the creative director and founder of a lifestyle brand called Art Pays Me. This is the Art Pays Me podcast, and I'm passionate about finding ways that people like you and me can make a living for ourselves off of our creativity. And, maybe we can make the world a better place at the same time. Let's get into it. Hip hop fans, this Monday, April 22nd, DJ Qbert and the Fresh Crew will be at Reflections. So the first two people to hit me up on Instagram to say that they're interested in this show, I can add your names to the guest list. Serious inquiries only. So the show will feature DJ Qbert and the Fresh Crew, obviously. And then it'll be Toronto's Fortunato, Halifax hip hop performers DJ IV, Cess, Shade Pits, Mars That Advocate, Shell, Mac Malicious, and B. Hit me up. Okay, welcome to the Art Pays Me podcast. My guest on this episode is Melissa McMaster of 902 Hip Hop. I met Melissa years ago and immediately reconnected. We've been cheering for each other on the sidelines ever since, and I've been amazed at the success she's had over the years and her passion for elevating the profile of hip hop from this part of the country. So Melissa, welcome.
Thank you.
So what is 902 Hip Hop and what exactly do you do?
So 902 Hip Hop, it's an urban artist management company, as well as licensing. So we license hip hop music for TV, film, and video games.
Okay. And I saw some of your music popped up in some things. Was it Stars, that's it. I was like, whoa, that's a big move.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of really great placements over the past couple years.
Mm-hmm.
The one that you kind of just recently saw was Matty Bow. He did an instrumental beat with bongo, and they kind of did a song over that instrumental and then shot a music video for it as well.
Cool.
And Quake and KO in the summer, they did one of the UFC trailers for the fight. Maddie's also done other instrumentals for Big Shack for some UK train line commercials.
No way.
We've done stuff for HBO. We have some stuff coming out with Netflix with Cupcake. So we've been all over the place, but with some really great placements.
So is that to do with intellectual property law at all, or do you not really?
Yeah, a little bit. It comes to the ownership of the song.
Okay.
So typically, it's easier for me to work with artists that aren't signed to a major label or aren't signed to publishing companies because they own 100% of their music. However, we can still go through that kind of clearance process with them. So one thing when it comes to licensing music, especially for TV and film, and when it's hip hop music, is that it has to be sample free.
Ah, okay.
And that's one of the biggest things, or kind of one of the biggest challenges with hip hop artists and with their music, is if the samples aren't cleared, technically they don't have permission to use it. And if it's not cleared, then we can't license it for TV or for film because it could cause a lot of problems if it's a big song or a big sample. So that's one thing that I work with a lot of the artists on, is making sure that the music is sample free, that it's cleared, and they have kind of majority ownership of the song.
Cool. You don't have to get into specific numbers or anything, but how do the artists get paid off of that? Are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, of course. So it varies across the board, depending on the company or the TV show, or if it's a movie. But we typically work between $1,000 to $10,000 budgets. That's kind of our sweet spot. MTV placements are typically $1,000 across the board.
Okay.
When it comes to TV shows, we've typically seen $2,500 to $5,000, and that's US.
Okay.
And then some of the commercials that we've done, or even the stuff in Stars or Empire, when they're creating a song over that instrumental and it's not just background music, that's when the checks get a lot bigger. So you're looking at $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000.
And that's it doesn't matter how many times the show airs. It's just like a one-time fee that they pay.
It depends. So that's kind of it comes out like in the contract.
Okay.
So sometimes for Netflix, it's typically like it's a flat rate. You get paid and you can't collect any royalties off the back end.
Okay.
So no matter how many times people stream it or watch it on Netflix, you're not getting any of that back end. However, for like MTV, the placement money is so low, but you're able to collect the royalty on the back end. So if your song gets played in Kardashians, well, you know Kardashians is streaming pretty much for the rest of our life.
Right.
And the same when it comes to like TV placements. If we take a look at the one that we just recently did with Stars, sometimes in the contract you'll see like additional bonuses.
Yeah.
Because those songs are streaming on Spotify, on Apple, and on Tidal. So if they reach a certain number of streams, it almost like you get paid out like an extra kind of percentage.
Gotcha.
So every situation is different. So it's just kind of what's in the contract.
Okay. Cool. Like I always see that and fascinated by it, and I'm sort of exploring that idea from a visual standpoint as well. So that's cool. So what made you want to start doing this?
It was super organic. So my background is startup in tech. I was a small business like counselor for 7 years. I was working at Seed at the time when this kind of all started to bubble. Ryan from Youth Art Connection and I were on a 21 Inc. leadership program. So we spent a week together traveling around the province. And he was just kind of sharing with me some of the stuff that he was doing at Youth Art Connection, because that's when they kind of started their company as well, and telling me about some of the artists that they were working with and how a lot of them were just kind of in this like hobby business, and they wanted to be sustainable and they wanted to do this full time. And because I was at Seed, and that's at that time, and it still kind of is, you know, their mandate, I brought that to our CEO at the time and said, you know, Ryan has a group of youth, they're interested in starting businesses. We should let them come in and on a weekly basis and kind of take them through like a small business, you know, marketing course, accelerator program. And they said, sure, you know, let's do that. Let's have them come in. And what I quickly realized that first week was I knew absolutely nothing about music.
Oh, really?
And so when you look at kind of your operating costs as a small business, it's typically like brick and mortars, right? So you have whatever lights, or you have inventory, you have staff. When you look at operating costs for musicians, for rappers, for producers, it's completely different. The way they're making revenue is completely different from how Tim Hortons would make revenue or how a small retail shop would make revenue.
Okay.
So I had to stop for a minute, and I had to like really immerse myself within the community, within the hip hop scene, and really quickly get a snapshot of what that would look like. And going through that process, that's when I really started to kind of, I would say like I fell in love with hip hop. I fell in love with, you know, our scene and our community, and really started to see that there was, you know, a lot of opportunity to kind of help build the community up, because there is a lack of managers, there's a lack of infrastructure.
Cool. So who do you represent currently?
Currently, I represent Quake Matthews, KO, Maddie Galaxy, Mage, Thrilla, and Nicole Ariana.
Oh, okay.
So 6, yeah.
Nicole Ariana.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is it just you with 902 Hip Hop?
Primarily, it's just myself.
Okay.
I have like a business partner in Atlanta that I work really closely with. But I've built teams around each of my artists.
Okay.
So that allows me to, I guess, work the way I'm working right now.
Yeah.
In that sense, because each artist kind of has a team around them, instead of me kind of building a team around 902 Hip Hop. We're in such a growth period right now, and I'm moving around so much. It's really, I'm having that challenge of building a team around myself, so it's much easier for me to build a team around the artist and for me to manage those teams.
Interesting. So like I struggle with that myself. It's hard to do everything by like alone, right?
No, it definitely is. Things, you know what I mean? Like things that should become priority kind of get left to the side sometimes because other things are more important than, what you should be doing. And that happens all the time. I think that's a normal like struggle that every entrepreneur faces.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the normal type of thing. And I think for myself, we've just been growing at such a rapid pace and moving into like different fields of the industry. So when I started, I was doing a lot of, say, marketing and communication stuff for the artist. And then I started doing a lot of day-to-day management. And now I'm doing licensing. And so every time, and because I came with no background, I'm learning every single day as I go. So it's like that balance of, well, I gotta go and I have to learn all this. So something has to stay on pause for a minute while I go learn this and come back. But I'm really like fortunate, like the guys and Nicole, like they're self-sufficient artists. And we all work together as a collective.
Yeah.
So the stuff that I'm doing right now, like they know that's like super important for long term.
Okay.
So Quake can hold himself down for a minute. KO can hold himself down for a minute. Nicole can hold herself down for a minute. Because they've been in the game, for a little in that sense, right? So it's not like this is new and like fresh to them. They can kind of maintain their day-to-day and bring me in when it's something, of need or a priority while I'm kind of building our company to that next level.
Okay. So you're also a mother, so
Yes.
I'm sure that plays into the juggle. I'm a dad, and I find it hard to prioritize their interests, but then still be like, I'm a human, and I still want my own. I still have my own life to live, and goals and ambitions, and all that other stuff. How do you find that?
It was definitely a challenge because I became a single mom of 3 when I started my company.
Oh, wow.
So I would say like the first kind of year, the first 2 years, like finding that balance was super challenging on both sides. Like me trying to figure out, I quit my job, I started a company, and now I have all these people depending on me to manage their lives and their careers. And then I was coming out of a long-term relationship and finding that balance of, being in Halifax, being in Antigonish, being a mom, being a manager, and all that jazz in between.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, a challenge. And I definitely spent more time on my company at sometimes, and then sometimes I had to be home.
Yeah.
But right now, like, I have that balance perfected in a sense, or I feel that I have that balance perfected. Where I'm at with my company, because we're established and I have clear vision and goal for where we're going and what we do. If there's a meeting that pops up tomorrow and I'm in Antigonish, I have the ability now to fully say no.
Yeah.
I don't need to drive to Halifax to do that 1 hour meeting and then drive home.
Okay.
So for me, my priority has shifted to if I'm in Halifax, this is my time in Halifax. When I'm home with the kids, that's my home with the kids. So I have a 9 to 5 when I'm in Antigonish. My artists know that. A lot of my close, clients and partners know that. So unless it's, urgent, a major priority, I'm 9 to 5 at home and I'm with my kids. And then when I'm in Halifax, we were just talking about, this morning, I'll put in my 12, my 14, my 16-hour days.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of my routine and the balance that I've worked out. And so I feel super whole about it. So it just makes everything for me it's an easy yes or no.
Okay.
And my whole schedule is built around 1 week on, 1 week off.
Sweet. That's good that you were able to figure out that system. I know with me, I have a 9 to 5 and then the family thing, and I'm working on segmenting my life into those sections. Okay, when I'm doing this, y'all need to leave me alone.
Yeah.
challenge is sometimes social media. I hate the scene, the thing that when people can see you that you saw a message, actually, because sometimes I can't respond right away, even if I've seen the message, and I feel like people are like waiting for me, so I feel pressure. So I just sometimes don't check the messages, because I'm just like, I'm in day mode, 9 to 5 mode right now, so I can't really deal with this.
Yes.
Or I'm in family mode right now, so I'm not even gonna try to solve this problem right now. But it's interesting trying to find that balance.
And I think that happens to all of us in that sense. And sometimes like I just need a break. Like I'm tapped out. Like there's days where I can't listen to any more music. I don't want to have any more conversations. I just need to relax. And so, people are so accustomed to me, or accustomed to calling me or texting me and me responding right back. And then if I don't, it's like,
what's up?
I'm going to blow up your phone, or like, what's going on? Is everything okay? And I think you just have to get used to not caring what anyone else thinks, which is super hard. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're in that moment, and you have to be your best self. And so I have to be my best self to make sure my company is solid, and for me to be that manager or that support that my artists need. So if I'm not my best self, then we're not whole.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We all need that time to recharge, and sometimes just do nothing. So why does it make sense for an artist to work with someone like you?
I don't know if it makes sense to work with me. I know like I get a lot of artists that like hit me up that want to work like with myself, because obviously they see what Quake's doing, what KO's doing, what Nicole's doing, or Maddie, and they want to be in that position, or they want help getting there. I always use this analogy, like artist management is like dating, right? So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So you can look at me and you can see everything that I'm doing, and I'm moving, and I'm I have crazy work ethic, blase, 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 but I have my own schedule, right? So the way I work, or I have that, I'm in Antigonish, so I have a 9 to 5 some weeks. I'm in Halifax, and that's cool. I can be super attentive. Or if I'm in Atlanta or LA or in London, still you're getting like half of me, because I'm out there working in meetings and whatever artists with me at that time. So for me, what I try to do is when people message me or they're looking for management, is to really like drill down to what they're actually like looking for, because people's definition of management is completely different. Like if I asked you what an artist management does, you'll say one thing, and then I'll say what I do, and it's not going to match. Most of the times people want to work with me because they're looking for more gigs. They want a booking agent, and right off the bat, like that's my worst quality, my weekness. In that sense, like I'm not like, I hate calling venues. If someone like hits me up like a festival and wants to book somebody, like yes, I'll do up the contract and whatnot. But like if you expect me to pick up the phone like where I'm at right now and call and book you a tour, like that's going to be the last priority on my list for that day. So I really try to like drill down to get an idea of like what the artist wants, and then provide them with like that transfer of knowledge or those contacts so they can go do it themselves, because it's super important for an artist to be self-sustainable. Like I remember one day someone asked me if I was Maje's manager because they haven't seen me at one of his shows. And I was like, well, yeah, I am his manager, but he doesn't need me at his show. Like I can go, not waste, but I can go take 3 hours of my time and go to his show and make sure, I guess, everything's okay type of thing, right? Or I could be spending 3 hours on, how to build his career outside of Nova Scotia, within Canada, or outside of the US. And so long term, those 3 hours for me are better spent trying to build that artist than hanging out at a show when there's sound technicians and everyone else there. Typically, like I'll ask the guys or the artist if it's a big show and they want me there,
Yeah.
so sometimes, this will be happening and they're like, Melissa, I really want you to be there for this. And I will, I'll 100% be there.
Yeah.
But then it goes back to like prioritizing, being able to say no and like what's important.
Yeah.
So I think that's, a longer answer to your question. But yeah, I think it just becomes a conversation of, what an artist is really looking for, and that 90% of the time they need to be doing that by themselves anyways, before they kind of bring a manager or someone else into their career.
I love that. I relate it to what I've struggled with as a graphic designer. I think early in my career, when, say, a client would approach me for a design project, I felt this pressure to say that I could do everything. Because I can. I have the ability to do all kinds of things. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, no, I know what I really enjoy doing as a graphic designer. I know what I'm good at. And I'd rather just do those things rather than try to tell you, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then we both have a terrible experience because I'm doing something I don't enjoy. You're not getting the best of me because you're expecting something I'm not really great at. So it's, I like that you mentioned that. And I also like the idea of using your time better. Like, you're right, because if you're not doing anything more than just sort of being in the audience when your artist is in a show, like, that's the great thing of having a team is the artist is out doing their thing, creating energy, getting fans and performing. You're in the background doing the other boring stuff to them, stuff that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
So, like, that, I love that idea, because you need people who like love doing that other stuff so you can focus on the thing that you love doing.
No, exactly. And I think that's, another thing like about 902 Hip Hop and the artists that we get to work with, like, we're a collective.
Yeah.
Like, we support each other. Like, when Kao's in Halifax, like, he's so good to be there to help mentor Maj and to support him. It's the same, I know we're going to get into this in a little bit about the Artist in Residence program, that we're launching in Atlanta. But again, like, some of the artists are paired up because they can support each other, because, Quake's been out to Atlanta a number of times, so he knows the scene.
Yeah.
He has, some friends, some relationship. So when he's there with Psych, like, he can kind of help him get comfortable in Atlanta so he can kind of go off and do his own thing. And that's how, we've always approached, this growth together.
Yeah.
Like, I get a lot from the guys. Like, I learn so much from Quake, right? But at the same time, I'm able to share, my business knowledge with them. So it's always like a back and forth. And everyone that I work with, or everyone that's now a part of like 902 Hip Hop, like, that was so organic. It wasn't like, all right, today I'm going to start an artist management company and I want to manage XYZ.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go knock on their door and like, hi, like, I'm Melissa, like, can I be your manager? Like, everyone just we all just came together. Like, I knew Maj for 5 years before I started managing him. Okay. Like, I started 902 Hip Hop. He was one of the youth that was in that first, like, artpreneur incubator that Ryan and I did at Seed.
Yeah. Right.
So I seen him from the very beginning. I've watched him grow and knew, kind of last year, maybe a year and a half now, like, he was in a position where he definitely needs some management and some help to help him kind of elevate and grow to that next level. It was the same, like, with Maddie. Like, Maddie was just producing a lot of tracks for some of the artists that I was working with. But again, like, he was going out to different, like, conferences, flying out to LA, and, he had opportunities coming to him. Yeah. And it was just a conversation. It was like, well, I can, help you with that. And now, we're a team, we're together, like, we're really working on, like, composing music for video games. We just got back from a conference in San Francisco. So for me, I'm just here to really, like, elevate the guys and Nicole. I would say the guys and Nicole. Yeah. But where they want to go. So, Maddie started off as, as a producer. Now he's moving into more like composing. He's really interested in like licensing his music into like, audio engineering and stuff like that. So for me, it's like, however I can help elevate their goals and their dreams, like that's what I want to do. Like at the end of the day, they're gonna break out of that box that they started in and move into all these other kind of avenues, whether it's, fashion, producing, TV and film. And, I'm just here to support that growth.
Okay. Cool. Shout out to Majay too. Saw him on the basketball court this week.
Always on the basketball court.
Yeah. I'm just gonna take a chance to talk my shit. Hey, you got some shots up, youngin, but I gave you some work. Maybe you can have you on the podcast and talk about it. So let's talk about Atlanta. So what's going on with the Artist in Residency program?
So probably about 6 months ago, we started kind of just having some conversations on where everyone was at within their career and what, really needed to happen next. And that's the other piece that like I love about our collective is that we can always have honest conversations, right? And we're very open with each other, and it's not an ego thing. It's just an honest and open conversation of like, look, this is where you are right now in your career, and if we want to get to that next level, and I hate that term, but that next level, if you really want to be like a global artist, or you want to break into that U.S. market, then what do we need to do? So that's kind of how everything started, was having some really honest conversations where everyone was at and where they wanted to go. We've been building in Atlanta too for like the past 3 years. So I have some really solid relationships in Atlanta. My business partner is from Atlanta. So it was really, talking with him, talking with the artist. And, Atlanta is the mecca for hip hop right now. There's a lot of like creativity that's flowing within the city. Their Chamber of Commerce, Choose ATL, Invest Atlanta, they're all moving into the music scene in that sense to support artists. And we really thought that like creating an artist in residency program would be super beneficial to our artists, and to use that as like a pilot, as like a proof of concept to say, this is what we did with artists from Nova Scotia over a period of time. And this is all the success that they had going through an artist in residence program. And so we're able to hopefully, pitch that, whether it's, to Factor, to Canadian Council, to the larger, I guess, organizations within Canada to say, this works and hip hop artists need this type of program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the artist residency program in Banff.
No.
So we sort of kind of use this as like to mirror our project. So there's an artist in residency in Banff, but it's more for like disciplinary artists. So if you're a professional celloist, or like, so it's, putting a hip hop artist in that residency would be, it would be a weird, awkward fit. But again, knowing that like urban music is like, the top music globally, and here artists need to be able to compete on a global level. Like the quality is great, like the artists are amazing, but they still need to bring it up a notch. And when we're in Halifax, like when I go downtown or downtown, like there's no labels down there, right? Like I can't go into Universal, I can't go into Sony, I can't go into Spotify, I can't go into Apple, can't go into Warner Chappelle. Like we can't go anywhere because we don't have that infrastructure or that business executives kind of around us. But again, Atlanta has amazing producers. They have all the, infrastructure in regards to like executives, there. So it just made sense to kind of pilot this program. Quake went down April 1st, so he's there right now. He just got out of an amazing 4-day song camp and like knocked out probably like 6 to 10 songs.
Oh, nice.
Working with top producers like Willpower. He just did a session with Tasha Couture. Him and Deontay Hitchcock are, great friends, and they're back in the studio. He's been in the studio with Black Metaphor, and, still has 2 more weeks and a lot more sessions to come. And then last night he was at a plug and play event where, a lot of the executives were at. So just being in the mix of things, where we're having a lot of conversations with those executives, and for them to see like our artist, about, is really going to give them that next opportunity that they need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really cool. So speaking about hip hop representation, you posted something about Music Nova Scotia recently, and about how they distribute their funding.
Yes, I did. So there was, there's been, I guess, like situations or artists being not approved, for their funding, and really not understanding why, those grants aren't going through. And, we've not received funding in the past, which is, I don't want to say completely okay, but, we've gone, like, we understand how that feels.
Sure.
In that sense. But sometimes, like, you do question some of the feedback that comes back, from the jury. You question, the jury not having, like, equal representation. You question, the jury not understanding, hip-hop music, not understanding who the majority of the players are, who the artists are within the city, because it's outside of their kind of bubble, type of thing, right? So, I mean, we've all had these, like, questions when you're dealing with a rejection. And Leland, Kid, he kind of really brought this out on social media last week, because his production grant for mentorship with OVO was denied. And so it really just kind of kicked off a conversation. And I think it's a conversation that should have happened like a long time ago. And I don't want to say I don't know where the conversation's going to go. I really feel like Music Nova Scotia needs to be held accountable for making change. So, we've had some really good conversations this past week, but we all know conversations are conversations. Talk is talk.
Yeah.
So right now it's more of just, holding Music Nova Scotia like accountable and making sure that there's for me, it's like fair play.
Yeah.
So if you're a new artist and you submit a grant, well, you should be at equal playing field with myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's written grants that has, put them in. So we've suggested a lot of different things to them about having like a standard, template.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're filling out an artist development grant and I'm filling out an artist development grant, we're filling out the exact same template.
Okay.
Same if you're filling out a marketing grant and I'm filling out a marketing grant, well, we have a standard marketing plan template. So at least when you start, you already have an idea of, what type of information has to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same, like just, making sure expectations are clear. So for me as an entrepreneur, as a business, a business counselor, that's my background. So I'm always like, here are some problems, we just need to solve them.
Yeah.
And they're in a unique situation because everything that gets denied, right, the jury has to provide feedback. So for me, it's like, well, let's look at the feedback that's coming back from the juries.
Mm-hmm.
So, and find common themes, right? So if one of the themes is, goals aren't clear.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
well, then we need, there's a miscommunication of what a SMART goal is.
Right.
Or what goals look like. So, whether that's a tutorial video, 1 minute of, this is how you write a SMART goal.
Yeah.
Or, here's our Q&A sheet of like 5 common like mistakes that people make on their grants. So to me, that's where I want to see that conversation going. I want to see a lot more like education and communication around, the process of writing grants, the information that goes into writing grants. If you're going to appeal a grant, what does that even look like? So that's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
And right now it's a lot of talk, and we're all about action. So hopefully we'll start to see some of this stuff come into play. And if it doesn't, there's going to be a lot more, uproar, I think, from the community about, not Music Nova Scotia not taking, those correct steps, or really trying to change why the application percentage is so low for Black artists.
And you mentioned that feedback. You have an example of them not getting hip hop? Because I see it on Twitter sometimes, and people will criticize hip hop music for something. You're like, well, that's actually the intention of the song, to do that very thing that you think is wrong with it.
I think like more so like the feedback is them not maybe understanding like who all the artists are, right? So if you're not, if I use like a Mage or an Aquaculture, like, those names are like in the community.
Yeah.
But they're also in like the white community, in corporate community, right? Because, they've blended in.
Yes.
Right? But you might take like Kiddo, I want to say North Preston. I hope I'm right.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's,
right, so if you take Kiddo, right, he's an emerging, like an amazing artist, but we see him because he's in our bubble, in our circles. Right, same with like Corey Wrights. Like there's a lot of artists that are doing amazing things that may not be in the blended mix of things. So if you don't really know who they are, that's kind of, it's almost like when you go and vote for things, right? If you know the name on the ballot, you're more likely to check that name than like someone else in that sense. Music Nova Scotia has an urban advisory committee, and so we made suggestions that maybe a representative from the urban advisory committee sits in as like a non-voting member as a jury. So when they're going through, urban applications, they can just say like, oh, actually, like they can provide a little bit more information or explain why that's so important for their project, or for, for Music Nova Scotia, or for the jury to say yes and invest in that project. So to me, it's an easy fix.
Yeah.
It just needs to be prioritized, and it just needs to happen.
Right. It's that, is it that old stereotype that people don't necessarily associate hip hop as being a Nova Scotian thing? Like, I mean, Drake is changing it from a Canadian standpoint, and The Weeknd, and, like the whole movement that's coming out of that region. Now people are taking hip hop, Canadian hip hop, a lot more seriously. And Pat Stay is a battle rapper. Like, I have a friend who's in the battle rap scene, and he has a lot of respect for Pat. So hip hop is not, you can no longer deny that it's.
That's the thing. Like, you can no longer deny it, and it's right. The roots of it, it's Black music.
Yes,
right. Like it's Black music. It's your guys' culture, and that's prominent. Whether it's Halifax, Montreal, Toronto, Atlanta, like it's prominent everywhere we're at. So it's not going away. Like hip hop music, R&B music, it's like #1 stream music, across the world. And it's this conversation of like, we have so many amazing, dope artists from Halifax, and they just need to get out there. And but it's like, if you're not going to fund them, or you're not going to figure out, you're not going to look at the reasons why they're not being funded, and go in and make changes, then what I mean, like it's broken. In that sense, right? So you want, what I mean, like you want to say we have dope talent, and they need to, they need to be stars, they need to export out of Halifax. Well, then you need to be there to support them. So how do we go back and look at what we were doing, in the past, or what our processes were, and figure out why that's broken, that we're not supporting the amount of, hip hop and R&B artists that are in Halifax, in Nova Scotia, to excel them to that next level.
And in your opinion, it's specifically related to let's face it, black artists who just are having that harder time.
There's barriers. Like there's barriers in
Yeah.
that sense, right? We know that it's like it's a common,
Mm-hmm.
common thing, right? So, if you look at the application for, if you go on and you apply for artist development grant, marketing, touring, or whatnot, like these are conversations that we had, like right off the bat, like the first 2 pages, of that application is a barrier in its sense. It's asking you for publishing information, licensing revenue, how many streams. So if you don't know what the word publishing means, if you don't know what the word licensing means, if you just put your music on SoundCloud or Bandcamp, if you don't know how much a stream is, how are you supposed to calculate these numbers that they're asking?
Yeah.
Which really has, to me, like very little impact to the overall grant that you're writing. Like I understand like those numbers are important. They need to, capture those stats and capture those numbers for their like funders. But in a sense, whether you're a new artist and you made $500 or you made $2, it should really go to like that application that you're submitting and what you want to do to help grow your business, or and launch your career. So just little things like that, like to me, those are a barrier. Like if you started putting zeros in every one of those fields, like how discouraging would, like if that plays with your mind, like okay, I'm putting zeros in all these fields, and maybe artist XYZ, I know that he's putting 100, 200, right? So then you either just start making up numbers,
or you give up,
or you just say fuck it.
Yeah. It's
and,
okay.
and then you just close it and you don't.
Yeah.
Right. And again, like if you never wrote like an artist development plan, or if you didn't write like a small marketing plan, well, there's no tools on the website to say like, oh, here's the template, like this is how you fill it out. And then we all know, I mean, if you go to Google right now and put like business plan template, right, it's gonna be like business plan pro 230 and like graphs and charts, and you're just like, okay, nope. So like there's just so many different like barriers like that, and I think that even walking into music in Nova Scotia for a lot of people is just not comfortable for them in that sense. They don't, they have one person, of color that works there, in that whole office space. So I don't even think people feel like they, resonate, or like, oh, I can go in there and I can chop it up, type of thing. So again, like I'm just hoping that we start to see some changes, or it's going to create like a really big dialogue, outside of the artists. Like it's going to get, community involved in what's going on.
Cool. So, no, I got some bars.
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
I got some recordings that my brother and my cousin, they can let you know.
All right.
What piece of advice would you give a young aspiring talent? Like one big thing that you would give them?
My biggest piece of advice is just to consume as much knowledge as you can about the industry.
Okay.
And whether that's reading books, listening to podcasts, watching interviews on YouTube, is to really consume all this knowledge. And I know that sometimes it comes down to that balance. Well, I'm an artist and I don't give a fuck about the business. Well, when you become a global artist, it's 90% business, 10% about your artistry. And everything that you start to get hit with as you grow, you need to be so well informed so you can make those right decisions. So you can so you can, when opportunities come to you, you can weigh them out properly in that sense. And to me, like that's the biggest thing that I did. Like people have to realize that, yes, I come from business and startup, but I read every single day. I listen to a podcast every single day, and I've built a team of mentors behind me so I can ask them questions.
Right.
And all of my artists will always say this: she may not know the answer, but she will go out and find that answer.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like anytime we're making decisions, it's, I need to present all the, that 360 picture to you, because at the end of the day, my artists make every single decision, right? All I can do is present them with the information,
right?
So they can make that best decision for themselves.
And the more informed they are, the better decisions. The more informed
they are, the better decisions, that they can make in that sense. As an artist, like, it's super hard because, like, this is what you want, right? Like, you want to be, a Drake, or you know what I mean? Like, you want to be a Little Baby, or you want to be that artist that is signed to a major label, right? And you're performing everywhere, you're kind of living that life. But you have to understand, you know what I mean? Like, those little steps that come in between, and what you're signing and what you really want in that sense, right? So, we have a really great relationship with Universal Music, but it's the same thing. Like, if someone presented you as a new artist, even, I've seen this with some of the producers that I'm friends with, right? Oh, I just got this producer deal, or I just got this, and it's like, okay, let's read this. And it's just like, no, like, this makes no sense at all, or you're just going to give everything away for what? Like, is that what you need? Do you need, like, to me, it's like, do you need $10,000? Because literally, like, an artist development deal in Canada is like $10,000 to $15,000.
Right.
So it's like, you know what I mean? So what do you want from that deal? And trying to make the best decision of even, like, what label you want to get signed to. What do they bring to the table? What do you need? Right? Like, for me, we operate as an independent label. Like, we've built teams that labels would build around the artists that I represent. Right? So it's figuring out, what, is it the marketing piece that you need? Is it the funding piece that you need? Is it distribution that you need?
Yeah.
Is it breaking into the UK market? Is it breaking into the US market? Is it a booking agency that you need? Is it going to radio? Like, it's breaking down all those pieces and understanding what all those pieces mean. And then being able to make that best, the best decision. Because, again, you can sign to a label, but if if your expectations aren't met or are not communicated properly, then nothing's really going to happen.
You could be shelved for a long time, and they own the rights to your music.
And if you don't have the proper team behind you, then, like, who's going to push you at the label? So there's so many, like, different things like that. To me, it's like, you try to be as independent as you can and learn, for me, like, learn every aspect of it, or have a good understanding of what it means. And then do as much as you can on your own, because then you have leverage. Yeah. Without any leverage, like, you can't negotiate. Right. At all. So, you want to come to the table and be like, I did my own tour. I booked my own shows. Like, I know that, I can go across Canada and I can do 50 shows and I can sell them out. And here's the proof. Right. Or, I had 2 songs, we've gone to radio. Or, these are my followers, and my followers transition into actual, like, sales of merchandise, or actual, a revenue of something in that sense. Yeah. So, me, it's just like, keep your head down, grind it out, stop worrying what everyone thinks of you, or what artist A is doing in comparison to artist B. Like, that shouldn't matter whatsoever. Like, you're in your own lane. Like, that's what I always tell people. Like, yeah, I know what's going on in the city, and I know, like, I know new artists that are coming up, and what people are doing, but, like, I'm here to support and I'm here to help, but, like, my head's down because, like, I want to be one of the biggest music executives that come out of Canada. So I can't be worrying, what other people, may think of me, or like, what's going on over there, if it doesn't, like, impact, my company, the artists that I'm working with, or, like, what my goal is in that sense. And so I think when you know what your goal is and where you want to be, it makes it so much easier just to put your head down and grind it out.
What a way to finish it off. I love that. So, how do people get in contact with you?
So I have 3 email addresses. No. No, people can get in contact with me mostly through Instagram.
Okay.
To be honest, like I'm not a Facebooker.
Okay.
Twitter, I don't like Instagram or like email.
Okay.
Email's my thing. Melissa at 902hiphop.com.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming you don't want to get bombarded with everyone's SoundCloud.
No, I put the links in there. I travel so much, so I appreciate the music, if that makes sense. So yeah, if people send me, like, I prefer, like, please send me like a link of music. Like my inbox is always at max, so like MP3s and stuff
People
like that.
send you MP3s and not links?
Yeah, sometimes. So send me the links because at least I can like download it on my phone. You know, whether it's Spotify or if it's SoundCloud, I can just open it up and like just play it in the car or while I'm flying. But no, I appreciate the new music because the other thing is like, though like I'm at capacity when it comes to artist management, like that's the hardest thing to like scale or grow because I'm one person.
Yeah.
But on the music publishing side of things, I can add music to my catalog all day long.
Gotcha.
So I'm always looking for new music because we get so many different music briefs that, you know, I really still don't have that music in my catalog.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always looking for like new artists to like listen to or like new tracks. So I know if, you know, some briefs come through, I can be like, oh, actually I can hit up this artist and hopefully, you know, license that music for them.
Cool.
So I'm down to listen to music.
Sweet. You heard it here first, folks. Send Melissa your music. Thank you for coming on and doing this, Melissa.
Thank you.
I
recorded our first recorded chat.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, we always have great conversations. And I always felt like there's stuff that people could learn from them. So when I decided to do this podcast, I was like, gotta get Melissa on for sure.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Pays Me podcast. Thank you to Langy Beats for the theme music. If you got anything out of this show, please rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. The more you do this, the more reach the podcast gets, and the more artists I can help learn to make a living at what they love. If you want to know more about what I do, hit me up at artpaysme.com or at artpaysme on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. See y'all next time.